Hello and welcome to our mini broadcast of A Thieves' Lair. I am joined by Clarissa, and we are going to be utilizing
Mhm.
Roll20 for this Dungeons and Dragons game. And I will be the dungeon master here, and I'll be taking you through this process. Clarissa will be our player character. Clarissa, just to give you a little bit of a background for this adventure, you have arrived at the town of Grendel along the Swords Coast,
Mhm.
and you are a Lightfoot halfling, a rogue. You have a criminal background, but you are trying to start kind of a new chapter in your life. When you arrived at Grendel, you met with the magistrate, which was required of anybody who had a criminal background. And as he was looking through his files, he was a kind of a heavier set human. He looked up at you and he said, "It seems here that you have a criminal background. You are a rogue. Well, I have a request. Um, the town itself is situated along kind of a waterway, and there's a little bit of a harbor. And he told you that near this harbor area, there have been a lot of recent thefts of people's homes. It's really severely impacted commercialism in the area. And so he has sent you to this area to find out anything you can about what might be going on. We think there's some organized crime syndicates that are forming in this area, maybe even a thieves' guild. And he offers you 200 gold pieces to go to this part of his city and to do some investigation. And he'll take any information that you can find. But if you can, you know, basically shut this developing thieves guild down, he would be most indebted to you and maybe would forgive some of your criminal past. So, as I said, you're a rogue.
Mhm.
You're a third level rogue. Your name is Pelia. You do have a criminal background. In terms of your personality traits, which you've given me here, it says, I never have a plan, but I'm great at making things up as I go along. Also, the best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. So I think that's a good personality trait to have. You have a short sword, a short bow, a dagger, and you have a willingness, in this case, to find out the truth. So as you come to this part of the city, evening has fallen. It's very, very quiet. The streets are usually hustling and bustling, but at night, it's a weeknight, no one's here. You just see the scurrying little rats and mice, maybe a few very tired pigeons and things like that, and some insects. So you get to where you are told, or were told, that this lair could be developing, or this guild could be organizing itself. It's a very large building. It looks like at one time it was part of a fortification structure made of wood and cut limestone. The area you're in, which is part of a market environment, is all kind of cut limestone and very heavy duty kinds of walls. So where you're standing right now, this is kind of the kind of south eastern corner of a market environment, and you see a crate in front of you, and you see some of this wall material and a door.
Mm. I feel like that door is probably going to be locked, so I'm going to go all the way in the back.
Okay, so you're going to work your way down along the edge of the building. Okay. So again, you're seeing a lot of that heavy cut stone, similar kind of fortified structure. Ahead of you, you see this kind of tired pigeon kind of stumbling around on the ground, and there appears to be some kind of additional small marketplace environments, maybe kiosks, things like this. They have a canopy top to them and kind of a wood area for money changing and displaying goods. A lot of very small wares, things like that.
I'm going to just continue going down. I don't think really those items, like those store items, are really important, so I'm just going to go down. I
Okay,
see a staircase, so I'm going to
okay. Now, just
look
so you
over.
know, everything has transitioned to wood in this area, so it's no longer a kind of a fortified environment. It's become a wood structure. You are a halfling, so you're able to see everything seems to be in kind of a dim light like that, and you're
Mhm.
able to make out where these doorways and hallways are. There's another pigeon on the ground there. You notice there's more and more some kind of gardening boxes and things like that adhered to the wall, so that one time this was a residential environment, but then you have this stairway, and then there's a wooden door at the top of the stairs.
I'm going to sneak up there and look in the key hole because I'm assuming there is a hole.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and do a stealth check for me first? So that's for sneaking up the stairs so they don't get too creaky on you. That's a +7 on stealth.
Okay. All of this here. There we go. I got a 16.
All right. So as you're going up the stairs, you realize that they're pretty nicely built stairs. They've got some kind of more recent repairs on them, and things like that. So they don't creak at all. You get up to the top of the door, and yes, it does have a locking mechanism. It's a smaller door. It appears to be part of this wooden structure. And yes, there is a small, kind of tiny lock hole that you can look through if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm going to look through there.
All right, so let me reveal some of what you see. All right, so in front of you, when you look through, it's a dimly lit room, and the light appears to be coming from the right, and you see in front of you kind of an empty pot with some soil in it. And in this case, you also see some potted flowers and things like that are, in this case, they seem to be somebody's tending to these. And you can just barely make out a little bit of a kind of a humming. Somebody is in the room, again, just to the right there of where you can see.
Oh, and also there's one part showing accidentally. There we go. I am going to try to pick the keyhole.
Okay, so you're going to pick the lock?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have a kind of a small leather pouch, and when you roll it out, you remember that you've got all of your kind of lock picks. You have about 7 lock picks in there, and some additional kind of devices that seem to be for different kinds of types of locks. You know that this is kind of more of a skeleton key lock system, pretty crude, and so you can use any of the lock picks to do that. You have a +3 for being able to pick the lock, so go ahead and give that a shot.
Okay. I'm gonna move my dice here. I got a 10.
Oh, good. That was actually enough because you realize that this is a fairly kind of simple. At one time, this was somebody's home, and it was not as fortified as other parts of this kind of larger, complicated structure that seems to have many different, different kinds of housing segments to it, and even a fortified segment to it. And it has been recently oiled, and so this is an area that's been used. So you kind of put the picks in there, and you don't even, it doesn't even make a sound. You know it's unlocked, but it doesn't even, you can't even hear the click of the locking mechanism.
I'm gonna open like a little peek, like kind of like a little crack in the door.
All right, so I will go ahead and reveal that. You don't have to do another stealth check here, but I'll tell you what you see in the room. So you see a person. It's a woman. She of course does not have a sword drawn, but she's facing away from you. She's humming to herself a little bit, and she seems to be tending some of the plants in the room. You notice also the aroma of flowering plants and things like that, and she's watering a plant in a pot like this. When you look at her clothing, with your background, you realize that she probably is not, the nicest of people. She is probably part of a crime syndicate, and she's probably a higher up in that crime syndicate. She doesn't get her hands dirty, but she knows her way around a weapon if she needed to defend herself or to assassinate someone.
So she looks like a fighter or something like that?
Yeah, but more like a criminal. So a rogue similar to yourself, but a person who has, for her crime has paid well. She is wearing fine clothing, not your basic kinds of peasant clothes, but she's wearing a fine robe. She has a very ornate leather belt with a gold fastener. She has a beautiful scimitar that appears to be imported, and she most likely has come from abroad and has, in a sense, brought with her an interest in exotic plants and in this case plants from other places she's traveled. But she's not a good guy.
Okay. um, I'm going to um do a short bow at her.
Okay, so you're going to fire through that small crack in the door like that. Okay. Your arrows are these finely made arrows. They're designed to fly through the air at a rapid rate and make very little noise as they're kind of flying through. You've used a kind of crow's feather that's slightly oily, and you've made the kind of feathered end of the arrows out of that. So go ahead and roll to hit, and that's going to be a +5 for you.
Where's my dice? Oh, there it is. Wait, not you. A 16.
Excellent, that's a hit. So roll for damage. It's going to be a 1d6 +3.
5.
Excellent. Okay, so it kind of hits her in the back and just kind of glances off, and you see the robe tear a little bit as she kind of moves forward and drops what she was holding onto as a small watering can. It's more of a watering vessel. It's clay. It breaks on the floor, and she spins around. And now we're in combat. So go ahead and roll for initiative. You have a +3 for your initiative modifier.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna do that one. 16.
All right, let's see what she's got. She's going first. She has an 18. So she draws her scimitar and steps forward, and that's going to be her move. She's kind of readying herself. She's trying to get a sense of where that came from, and she sees the crack in the door. She can barely make out what appears to be a dark figure through that crack, but she moves forward, and that's her move. Now it's your turn.
Okay. I am just gonna go ahead and do the short a bear and
The short bow?
a short bow. And I'm going to fire at him.
All right.
Fire at her.
All right, go for it. You can tell she's bloodied. She's hurt. So
17.
Ooh, very good. And roll for damage.
And do this one again. A 6.
Wonderful. That's enough. She drops to the ground. She kind of and you see the arrow struck her right almost in the center of the chest near the heart, and she kind of falls down and she grabs her chest and she leans forward, and she is no more. So she has been killed, and you killed her rather quietly.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll stop this first part in the thieves' lair at this point. Tune in for part 2 when Clarissa investigates the room and maybe the corpse and determines whether or not there is some sort of organized crime syndicate that is being developed, or a thieves guild that is coming together in this part of Grendel.
Hmm.
Thanks so much.